You are now entering the horror sanctum.
Hello, and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with John, Kellen, and TJ, and we are delighted to be joined today by director, producer, writer, and stylist Jill Gevargian. And I already apologize once if I pronounced that incorrectly. But hi, Jill, and welcome to the Sanctum.
Hello, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
So you've worked on several films, several shorts. I'd say you're most well known for The Stylist, which was a short film in 2016. Then in 2018, it was part of an anthology film, Watch If You Dare. And then you turned into a feature length in 2020. So let's start there.
Yeah, so I had first heard about The Stylist, I want to say right around when it came out. I think I saw some stuff from Arrow Video about the movie, and I really didn't know what it was. I had heard it was a horror movie, but it was one of those where I didn't see much. I didn't really know exactly what it was about, and I finally watched it not too long ago, and it was honestly just it blew me away because the first thing I thought was okay, this movie needs to be talked about way more because there's just so much going on in it. There's the portrayals, the way you portrayed the female characters in the movie, the just the story itself, how you make it's a horror film, but it's not a typical horror film, right? You feel a lot of sympathy for the characters. What How personal was that to you, this story? As far as I understand that the main character is a hairstylist, but this feels like a personal movie. Is that accurate or?
Yeah, it's very personal. I always, when I say that, feel like I need to immediately disclaim, aside from the killing part,
Right. Right.
because she's so much of me. I mean, and then there's more details that are personal, like her dog is my dog, Pepper, and I work in that salon actually in the movie, and then but even when people ask me kind of about her mental health and what kind of research I did, I realized I'm like, not a lot, because it's based on my life or like my experience of whatever. Not completely, okay? I'm not, she's an exaggeration, but yeah, it's incredibly personal, everything about it.
So, the way Claire is in the film and how she sees people, did you when you were writing it, did you feel that sort of was a lot of that in the script from your personal experiences of how sometimes you would feel this way with people that you would deal with, maybe seeing their lives being this third party to where they look at you like, hey, we can say whatever we want, we don't have to worry about this getting out to someone. Was that something that you really drew from personally, throughout your life and your career?
Yeah, I really wanted to show as much of the unique experience of being a hairstylist in the film. I felt like that's what I could bring to this. And of course, it's about a hairstylist, but I was like, I can actually make it something that other stylists can see, and show the unique relationship we have with clients. And um, there were even things brought out about the film I didn't intentionally at all. I wasn't consciously doing.
Mhm.
There was on that Arrow release, there's a special feature that Alexandra Nichols did, and it's all about kind of working in service type jobs, that are kind of looked as like a class thing. And that's not something I thought about, but it naturally is part of the film because it's that job. But no, really, the relationship thing, I love the idea of how it's a really intimate relationship, and maybe even more so because you don't know all of each other's friends and family. So you can tell, even I find myself telling clients more like really personal things sometimes. And it is like an interesting disconnection that makes it feel safer. I don't know. It's interesting. That's why what I wanted to really explore with the film.
It's almost like a bartender relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really root for, in the movie, I really root for Claire. I know that's kind of a sadistic thing to say, but I just felt so bad for her. And I really, those feelings of, you know, jealousy and wanting to sort of be someone else in someone else's life, and that feeling of wanting to be loved, it's something that like I definitely can understand, and I really root for her. Like a lot of the characters, I was just like even that first character that she gets in the chair, I was like, that's awesome, right? And I don't know if that what that says about me, but I just you did a good job of making her a killer, but there's something about her that's so relatable, right? Because we all feel
Yeah.
that loneliness. Um, with
Yeah, I wanted
with
her to be really grounded, but it was something I battled with how we would accomplish it because of the her actions are so over the top, her killing routine and what she does. But I wanted her to feel very real, and I was like, how do we make both of these things happen? I think the actress Najara is who we have to thank for it working the way it does.
Oh yeah, she's great. And I did, Claire and Olivia, Brie Grant's character. I watching it again today, I noticed that there's a lot of similarities with them. Like they have this kinsmanship and they're both looking for something. It's almost like that's their bond in a way. But I just wondered, and I don't know if, I know sometimes filmmakers don't like answering these things outright, but in your mind, when you're writing these characters, what is the real core difference between them? Aside from Claire's a killer, where do you think their personalities differ?
Um, I don't know if I know specific. Well, but we did write them to be, we wanted them to feel like opposites while also being the same. Like they're
Right.
doppelgangers, they're the same and the opposite and they're like one when they're together. Um, but I guess really just that I think Olivia's character, like at some point in her life, she was given the support that Claire never had. So she had and I think that's where my thinking of where kind of this like deep-seated envy comes in with how Claire feels towards Olivia is almost maybe subconscious, that just these differences in their life, like they came from similar backgrounds, maybe they both didn't have a father around, but Claire's life was not full of the support needed that Olivia did have, and it's kind of showing the difference in two people that came from a similar thing and where they can end up with the different support system or complete lack of one. And obviously a very extreme version of it with Claire, but that was the idea with the two characters mirroring each other.
Yeah, and I thought that was I guess I didn't notice that the first time. And the film, one thing I really like about it is there's a lot of things with the characters that, especially with Claire, that you really have to rewatch it a few times to pick up on. There's things that she's doing. There's
Hmm.
and I still, like, even after a second time, I eventually I want to rewatch it again because there's little things in the movie that I feel like aren't connecting totally with me because it's like laying out these puzzle pieces. And I love movies like that where you have to sort of make sense and fill in the gaps a little. Um,
Yes.
one thing I wanted to know too about the short film. I know you did the Stylist short film, and in the short film, the character that gets killed wakes up before she kills her.
Yeah.
Was was that kind of, did you translate that idea to the full film where the barista gets killed? Was that sort of a translation for you, or was that a different idea altogether?
No, you picked that up perfectly. Because we even had her say the what the fuck, Claire, the same line, which when we had the in the short, when it first played, like I didn't know it was going to be a huge laugh when she
Mhm.
says "What the fuck, Claire" in the short. Like the crowd like erupt in laughter, and we were like, "Oh wow, I had no idea!" And it just became a thing everyone like hung on to, and so we were like, "We have to put this somewhere in the feature just to bring it back," and that felt like the perfect moment, and I use it as like a hashtag whenever I post about the movie. We made shirts that have "What the fuck, Claire" on the back. But yeah, it's one of our little inside favorite lines.
As it should be. When you made the short film, did you have intentions of eventually making it a feature length, or that's just something that kind of happened?
No, yeah, I did want to. When I was thinking of ideas, it was for another short, but the idea seemed like, oh, this should be more like, I felt like there was a lot more to explore with the character, that it could be both things. And I decided to do a short and a feature of it because at the time I had only made one short and I knew I wanted more experience before I attempted to make that jump. And we also thought it would be something that we could use to hopefully help sell the idea of the feature, which I think it helped us at least because it did really well at festivals. And then we crowdfunded a decent part of the feature. So yeah.
And it should get that recognition because I love the film. I'm pretty sure I watched it way before anybody else did here. Like I have the Arrow Blu-ray. Like it's just so good. And the one thing about it I noticed after my fourth watch today, there's really not, besides that one line, there's really not a lot of humor in it. It's very dark, which I can appreciate. And then, like John said, we gravitate to Claire, and like I think she's got body dysmorphia. You know, there's some mental illness. She has abandonment issues. You know, like all those are things that a lot of us can relate to, which is what fuels this film also for me, is because it's very relatable, because we've all have some form of body dysmorphia before. We all have mental illness. I mean, that's just life, right?
Yeah.
um it was very, I thought about it today as it's Ed Gein meets Beautician and the Beast.
I
Like
love
that's
it.
what
Yes.
this movie is. It's Ed Gein and Beautician and the Beast. You know, like that's the two films that came to my head. But it's fantastic. But that's not the only thing that you've done. So let's talk about some of your other short films. 42 Counts, based on a true story. Is it? And it happened in Missouri, right? Which is where you're from. Is this something you were connected to, or was this just a story you saw on the news that kind of got some inspiration going?
I I was just kind of connected by a couple people away from this true story. A friend of mine, it happened at a tattoo shop here that is no longer clearly in business. But I knew one of the artists that worked at the shop and so worked with the person this happened to. But it was a true story about a woman who was living in the apartments above the tattoo shop. She was an artist. The owner owned the whole building and rented it out to artists often that worked there. And eventually one night they discovered, like, a friend realized something looked like one of the smoke detectors looked weird. They pulled it down, realized it was a camera, and went on to find like a dozen cameras in the apartment, multiple in the bathroom. And that led them to the basement where they found, like, right out of a terrifying thriller, like a computer full of all the feeds from the apartment upstairs. And so I don't know, it just really struck me that, and how common, actually, how often those kind of crimes happen, and then how much we don't even know, because anyone can order these terrifyingly small hidden cameras and put them anywhere, and the law's not really caught up to it. So these people don't really get in much trouble, and like that's kind of the first step to eventually often becoming violent, like that level of stalking.
Yeah, that's
But yeah, we
becoming a staple in a lot of films now too. It's like I think 13 cameras, one cameras, and you just said there were about a dozen cameras, so that could be the prequel to those films. And The Rental, that's another one I watched. Ever since I watched that, I always check around
yeah.
any Airbnb.
What's crazy is the new feature that I have
Um,
out right now. I didn't write it, but it's called Ghost Game, and it's about people playing it's like a dark web internet challenge where they do like a home invasion. They break into people's homes, film it, share it online, like play haunt somebody. And so yeah, I've realized this voyeurism stalker thing is like a theme in everything I've made. It's a big theme.
um, I also watched Grand Long, and it's so effective for two minutes. Um, highly recommend that one too. But tell us, I don't know if it's still going or not. I've seen things online. Tell us about Slaughter Movie House.
Yeah. It's no longer going, but it went on for over 10 years. It was a screening series that we ran here in Kansas City. And that's honestly what gave me the courage or at all to even try to make a film. I went to my first horror convention and I met some filmmakers, saw the films, and I was like, I got to be a part of this world. And so started a monthly screening series where we showed independent horror and really almost anything weird or horror-ish for a long time. And we hosted at Screenland Armor, where they also have a Panic Fest. And really, it's kind of the pandemic is what ended up ending it. I was kind of already passing it on because it became something I felt like I couldn't do that and filmmaking and be a hairstylist. And so it just kind of naturally came to an end once we had to shut everything down for a while. But it was an awesome part of my life. And I met so many filmmakers that way. That's how I, even had or even thought that making a film was possible. I don't think I realized like real people made movies before I ever met a filmmaker. I just assumed it was something like really out of reach, or if anyone normal made a movie, it would maybe be really bad. I didn't think there was something in between. And so, yeah, it just all the filmmakers out there opened my eyes completely to that.
So what were some of your first inspirations to get into filmmaking and the world of horror specifically?
Yeah, well, that was a huge part of literally doing it. But I mean, since I was young, I think I always loved the feeling of being scared, playing scary games, scary stories, and then scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yeah. Did you like the movie adaptation?
I am crazy and haven't seen it yet. I
You
even
haven't?
have it.
It's
I need
so
to watch
good.
it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I haven't watched it yet. Yeah, I love those. I mean, I still look at those in the illustrations in those books and think those are absolutely terrifying. We should not
Right.
have looked at them that young. And once I discovered scary movies existed, I was just like so excited, which was about in third grade with a friend whose parents didn't really pay attention to what we were renting. My parents waited a couple years after that till they would let me. But yeah, I became obsessed. And before that, I loved sad movies, which is, I think, pretty morbid for a child. But I think the Stylist shows you that I love sad and scary movies
So you were just
combined.
rewinding the end of Old Yeller and watching it on
I was,
repeat?
I would literally watch Land Before Time though all the
Oh
time, like
no.
Oh, that
wanting to
is sad.
cry. That's one of
Yeah.
my
Oh
favorites.
no.
Still one of my favorites. It's so good.
So what was the entry level like gateway horror is how they describe it now? Like for a lot of us, we just talked to Andrew Gower, the star of Monster Squad from 1987, and that was a
Yeah.
big gateway for a lot of us and people like us. What was one for you?
I wonder, yeah, stuff before like actual horror. I think of stuff like, I guess, E.T. I love to watch all the time. It was, some parts of that scared me as a kid, but I would rewatch it over and over and over. And then I think I discovered that Are You Afraid of the Dark before
Oh
the
yes,
series on Nickelodeon, which I
classic.
loved.
Yeah.
But some of the first actual horror movies I remember watching were like Candyman, which is still one of my favorites, and
Same.
Dr. Giggles, which is a great one.
Yes,
Nice.
yes. It
Very
finally
cool.
got the Joe Bob
Oh,
Briggs treatment
yes.
recently. Yeah.
Have you watched
I
the
wondered why that never became a
newer?
franchise. Sorry.
I know you're good. Have you watched the newer Are You Afraid of the Darks?
I haven't. I didn't even know
Don't.
when. Oh, okay. I didn't know they made them. But now I'm like,
It's
how
not.
do I get a
It's not.
job directing one of those?
I enjoyed
It's
it.
not where every episode is different. Each season is a whole story.
Oh, okay.
I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I liked
It's-
the long format.
It's funny you say E.T. I love E.T., but I cannot watch that movie anymore. I cannot hear that song. If I hear that song, I
start
will
crying?
I'll just lose it. Like I can't.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's like it's tied itself into things in my life that I can't. And I have the 4K. I can't watch it, but it's a great
So
movie.
good.
Well, I can't watch the 20th anniversary edition where they CGI'd out all the cops' guns and replaced them with walkie-talkies because that's
They
just
did that?
bullshit. Yeah, they did.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
To make it more
That's a
family
lot of
friendly, I
effort
guess.
for it's a
Right.
cop. They have a gun on their waist.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway,
It's not
so
like they shoot people in that movie, or do they? I don't remember.
I don't
I don't
know,
think so.
honestly.
It's
I
been a
can't
minute
remember if
since
they
I've
did
seen
or
it.
not.
I don't think they
They
do.
never use a gun.
No,
Did they try to shoot ET?
it's PG.
That's horrible.
That's the sequel. I want to see that. The hard R ET2.
You said it's
ET
PG.
with a
Wasn't the
vengeance.
first Indiana Jones PG, and he shot everybody?
Well, Indiana
True.
Jones and the Temple of Doom was actually, which was a sequel. So yeah, you're right. The first one was PG, and the second one, where they take out the guy's heart, was actually the movie that made them create the PG-13 because they traumatized the whole generation of kids with that one scene. So, uh, I think with the Stylist, man, the whole idea of, because I mean, as a guy who hasn't had to go to a stylist in a hot minute, when I did go as a kid, my mom would always take me not to a barber shop. She'd take me to her place, which is I always went to the salons, and they would just typically give me a buzz cut or whatnot as a little kid. But I remember that the term they would say, "Oh, they scalped you that time," and then it seems like you kind of took that terminology to like the furthest extent that it could go. What inspired you to like literally go to well, I'll just take their scalp, and because that's definitely,
Well,
I mean, that's a choice.
yeah. Well, when the first the whole like the first idea that came to me about the whole thing was, how's there not like a killer hairstylist movie? There should already be that from like the Dr. Giggles era. And then I went not the silly slasher route at all, which I still think that movie should exist. But I was like, would she do? Right away, it just came to me that I'm like, would scalp people and keep their hair because I also love Leatherface.
Yes.
Huge Chainsaw fan, and I think he's sympathetic. I know that's especially in the original, the first one.
Yeah, they're just breaking into his house and
That's what
upsetting
they
him.
get wrong in the new ones is they
Yeah.
lose the sympathetic part of him and just make him like a big monster.
He's just their instrument. Like the other
Yeah.
guys are kind of the
But yeah, I think I'm positive that Leatherface and how he wears them, that was just, I was like, the first thing I was like, she's gonna take their scalps and wear them and like act as the person when she's wearing them. And I just pictured her in her room with all the trophies like on the wall like a hunter would, and she was like dancing around with one really happy when wearing it, was like the first like vision of it. And then started developing it from there.
Yeah, kind of like the Silence of the Lambs guy with his little dance and whatnot.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your new movie. Is it out? As it says it's 2024. Where can we watch this? Because it sounds really cool.
Well, I'm
Ghost
gonna
Game.
say it on here anyway. Yeah, Ghost Game is the new film. It's coming out in October. I'm not technically supposed to say the date yet, but
Okay.
when this comes
Sometime
out,
in
I feel like
October,
I'll
spooky
almost,
season.
well, we might have announced it. I don't know. But yeah, very close to Halloween. It'll come out on demand and all that. And also will come out on Blu-ray I don't know the date of that. I don't think it's the same time as the VOD. But yeah, I'm
Is it
excited
gonna
it's gonna
get
come
like a
out soon.
limited theatrical or just straight to streaming?
Um, I'm unsure. There's a possibility of a small theatrical, but I'm waiting to hear all of those details actually.
Oh, it's exciting times then.
But yeah, we're been playing festivals with it since April, and I'm about to go to London, but I'm already back from London, I mean, with the festival or with the film. But yeah, it was my first time working as a hired director. I was brought on the project by Ed Sanchez. This is me bragging, the director of Blair Witch. And
Nice.
it was written though by Adam Caesar, who he's more known for his novels. He wrote like Clown in a Cornfield, which is becoming a series now, and I'm a big fan.
I'm so excited. I loved both of those books.
Yeah, I'm so excited for the third one. I think it's coming out. It's already out. It's coming out very soon. But yeah, it was something that he wrote, and it was something that was ready to kind of be like financed. It's still a very, very small budget. That's like the Stylist. But it was so exciting. We shot it in Maryland, and it was made very fast for me, but it was like a very exciting experience. Got to work with like a whole new group of people. And now I'm just rambling, and I will stop.
So Kellen's got a series of questions. I think he's prepared for you.
Yeah, so my part's a little different. With the whole understanding that there's 4 of us, it's hard to kind of come up with original questions to fill a podcast. So I decided that I would go in a little different direction with Kellen's Fast 5.
I like it.
Still
I
shop
like your
working.
background.
Still workshopping. Yeah, thank you. Still workshopping the hand gestures. Maybe I'll get a graphic at some point. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I've got 5 quick questions. Just first thing to pop in your head. Answer it, and we'll move on. So, are you ready?
I'm ready, and I'm nervous.
Okay,
You should be.
all right. So, question number 1: which would you rather have as a stylist? The ability to read the mind of anyone who sits in your chair, or the ability to instantly regrow their hair?
Read their mind.
I kind of felt like that would be like along the same lines, because a lot of times that what I hear from stylists is they don't really have an idea of what the person wants. They're kind of just guessing. So I felt like it would be a fun thing to be able to, when they sit down, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what you want. Just be quiet now.
Exactly.
All right, question 2: if you could direct a remake of a horror movie, what movie would you choose?
Well, now Dr. Giggles is in my head, so maybe that. I've wondered why it's not a multi-franchise thing at this point. I know
Something
he's
you could make
gone.
happen.
Yeah.
It could be a
All right,
female
number 3.
Dr. Giggles now.
Yeah.
All right, as a director, would you rather have an unlimited budget or complete creative control?
Complete creative control for sure.
All right, this is going swimmingly. So let's get to the hard questions. If you could have any one person, living or dead, to have a seat in your stylist's chair, who would it be?
Why can't I think of any human being right now? Let's go with David Fincher. That's really random, but he just came to
Oh
mind.
wow,
I'm a
that'll
big
make
fan.
John
He's
happy.
very inspiring to me.
All right, well, this is the last question, and this is the most important out of all of the questions that you've had tonight.
Oh, here we go.
Where do you get the best barbecue, Kansas City or Memphis?
I mean, I have to say Kansas City as a Kansas Cityan. What's funny though, and I'll lose all my credit when I say this, is I don't eat, I'm a vegetarian. So I
There you
can't
go.
really
There's
even
vegetarian
eat the
barbecue
meat.
options.
Yeah.
I think it's more of
But
a
I just think
sauce
it's just
versus
very
a seasoning.
different style, you know. It's just you got to eat them both and enjoy them. They're different things. Then
Fair
there's
enough.
the barbecue in every city. I feel like we have the Texas rivalry as well. I don't know the difference.
So I did want to say this one last thing, and I wanted to ask what you think of it. You mentioned Leatherface earlier, and I personally think you would be really good if they ever did another Texas Chainsaw movie. I would say like you would be really good for that, because I feel like you understand characters, you understand like you can obviously do the gore, everything. Is that something you would ever be interested in, something like that, or is that one of those things where you're like, I don't want to even get near something like that?
It's funny because at first I would definitely love to do it, but I'd also be, I guess, horrified at the reaction to whatever we do. I mean, I would have to personally just accept it's going to be our version of it, and it's not going to be what the original. But yeah, you know how people with anything, I feel like any remake, the fans are mad. Either it's too different or too much exactly like the original. You can't make anybody happy.
Yeah, Rob Zombie's The Monsters is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Everybody lost their minds when he was going to do it. He's going to ruin it, and then he made it straight the way it was meant to be, and people still shit on it. So he couldn't win. All right, so that's going to be it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to wherever you're listening to this podcast, and follow us on Instagram. Jill, thank you again so much for taking some time with us. We greatly appreciate it. We all really love the
Thank you
film.
so much.
No shit, not blowing smoke up your ass. I know it seems that way, but we seriously, like I said, I own it. I think I bought it before I had even seen it. I just read about it. So thank you. Do you have anything else coming up you'd like to talk about, or you can tell people where they can find you were just written about in a book?
Yeah, everyone should order Heidi Honeycutt's new book. It's called I Spit on Your Celluloid, and it's about the history of women directing horror movies. I feel crazy honored to be written about within the book. The Stylist is written about, and even a picture of Claire's on the back cover. So everyone needs to order that. It's awesome. I just barely have cracked it open. It's so I don't know half of this information, so much history. And yeah, just keep an eye out for Ghost Game, my new film coming out. And yeah, thank you so much. I had a blast
Awesome.
with you guys.
I had a Fast Five killing question, number 6. Worst
Yes.
hairstyle in horror: Courtney Cox, Scream 3, or Josh Hartnett in every Josh Hartnett movie from the 90s.
Oh, that's a stalemate.
No, here's what I'm gonna say. Okay, I'm gonna say that Courtney Cox's bangs are the
Yeah.
worst. I also love them in some kind of like nostalgic weird way because I'm a Scream freak. Where's my ghost face?
Yeah.
Nice.
But Josh Hartnett's hair, while it's ridiculous, like he was like the heartthrob of that time. So like we loved it at the time. It didn't matter how ridiculous it was, but it is like flat to his head and then sticks out in the back. It is something very. I'm always thinking like, what was the thinking here? Like we mess it up and then like glue it down to the front. It's great.
Bedhead
Let's
on
bring it back.
steroids.
I'm trying to bring it back at the salon, but no one's doing it.
Full disclosure, after I saw the faculty, I wanted to be Josh Hartnett. Like I was the chubby kid though,
That's
so
the
I
best
didn't look
one.
good with that hairstyle or with white long sleeve shirts under my t-shirts. So it didn't last very long.
The white. Yes,
But I agree. Courtney Cox is the word. All right. So again, thank you again. Signing
Thank
off.
you.
I'm Jay with Jill, John, Kellen, and TJ. And until next time.
Keep it spooky.
Speaking of ET,
Oh, wow.
Sorry for the
Aw.
delay. My internet is shit at my house.
and I've got ET next to Dancing Jesus.
That's
Did
great.
you ever
Perfect.
have you ever seen a movie called Sliver, Jill? From the 90s?
Sliver.
That
So
sounds
it's
very familiar.
it's basically it is about voyeurism, but it's kind of like a weird, like erotic thriller. It's got I think Sharon Stone's in it.
I don't
But-
think I have seen that one, but I must because I love 90s erotic thrillers. It's like
Right.
the best subgenre ever.
Yeah, you probably like it.
Fatal
I remember it being
Attraction,
good.
Basic
Yeah.
Instinct, that kind of thing.
Yes.
The Hand That Rocks
That's-
the Cradle.
That's
movie
a
terrified me as
genre
a
they
kid.
need to bring back. I feel like we're ready for it again.
Well,
I took onto it.
Maxine.
I took onto it once someone pointed out, but someone read the Stylist script before we made it the feature, and they were like, "This is like, why can't I think of the one with Bridget Fonda and she like cuts her hair just like her and is trying to become her. Which one is it?" But they were like, "This is like a
Single
horror
white female?
version of Single White
Single
Female."
White Female.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a
And I was
great
like,
good
"You're,"
one.
I was like, "You're right, it is." And so then I just leaned more into it once someone pointed it out to
Oh,
me.
wow. I see it now. Yeah.
Mhm. I didn't even think about that. That's interesting.
All right. Well, Jill, thank you again. That was a lot of
Thank
fun. Sorry,
you.
my connection sucks.
No worries.
We made it through.
This is going to be episode what 92, and I have not had a
Oh,
glitch
man.
in
guys
91
are so
fucking
close to
episodes.
100.
So,
You had them all in this one.
No.
all right. Again, thank you again.
Thanks, guys.
We'll tag you and everything, and
Yeah.
I am going to definitely order that book because that's
Thank
right
you.
up my alley.
Good
And I
luck
love
in
rare-
London and good luck with the release of Ghost Game. Look forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks so much. You have a good one.
Bye.
You too.
I really did enjoy that movie. That was not
I
in
did
the
too.
big screen. Like it was,
Oh, it was
it was,
great.
it was very
That was a
smart.
good
And
movie.
I actually loved the twist ending. I loved that, it didn't just like, it was, it said
It was
that,
the perfect ending for what they set up with the story.
yeah.
Who was
and even with her going, grabbing Olivia and saying, I don't run. And then it cuts away. And then the next time you see her, she's wearing her hair under the veil, which I thought
Yeah.
was such a great twist. And it happens quick enough to where you don't have time to really think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was the girl?
You recognize it. Huh?
Who was the girl in the book when she's down in her lair and she's looking at the scalps and she's looking through the books? Who was the girl she's looking at in the book? There's somebody she keeps like, was that like her mom? There's like things in the movie I didn't pick up on that I need to rewatch. It's like when she's alone and she's kind of like tears up her shit and she's like scrolling through this
I just
thing.
assumed that was her victims, like pictures she kept.
Maybe. Yeah.
It feels like I felt like it was more she didn't have anybody.
Yeah.
Like maybe she was just mimicking, especially with the scene where she says I don't run. I feel like she was almost like mimicking a little bit, a little bit of, because and it keeps going back to that when she's got the different wigs on and she's basically quoting people that had that hair. It's like she's trying to find her personality because she's never had anybody, which is why she of course attaches to Olivia, because she shows her, gives her attention. It's such a smart movie. I mean, and I was fully expecting an hour 44 to be too long, but it doesn't feel super long because it keeps enough stuff happening throughout. So yeah, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I didn't have any expectations going in, and then
You guys need to go see Alien this weekend so we can talk about this shit next week.
I still haven't seen. Do
'Cause
you have to watch Covenant to be able to understand this one? Because I haven't watched Covenant.
Didn't you send a?
I don't know what to say. Here's the thing. Yes,
Didn't you send a
I would
timeline,
watch
John?
all of them. Yes, I would probably watch all of them. I would definitely watch up until Prometheus at least.
All right, I've seen it a couple of times.
Okay. The only thing I'll say is the way that I felt and a lot of people felt about Evil Dead Rise is the same sort of thing that I had a problem with this movie. But
towards the ending.
Well, yeah, the ending's a whole other thing. I'm not even gonna. It's. I literally, like I said, I literally at the last 10 minutes of the movie, it was quiet, and I literally said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" So
here's the thing. God bless Ridley Scott, but his best work was like behind him at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this franchise is a 2-movie franchise, maybe 3. I have to revisit the David Fincher Part 3 again to really appreciate it.
The Rotten Tomatoes score is bullshit on this movie. It's like when people are saying 97%, I'm like, that's bullshit.
It's 82 now, so I don't know if it just keeps dropping.
It ain't gonna stay 9. It's gonna keep going down some, probably. But it's not bad. It's just, like I said, I think we're all gonna have separate reactions. And I have a feeling that Kellen is going to be like, "Fuck this."
I mean,
it's hard. Like it's a perfect example of the dichotomy of these kind of movies is Alien and Predator. Predator, you can make multiple movies of that because the premise is he's basically a hunter that's come to Earth to hunt humans. You can have other predators come to Earth.
That's why the Prey movie was so great. You put it in any time.
You can continuously do that. There's only so many different ways that you can have the aliens showing up, just randomly in space. Like at some point, you either eradicate all the aliens or we don't know where Predator's coming from. He just shows up. He's invisible and he's hunting humans. We don't know how many are. We know from one of the most recent ones that yes, there is a home planet where there's a bunch of them and there's different types of predators. But for the most part, 1 and 2 were basically the same idea, just set in urban setting versus a jungle setting.
Yeah.
And you can continuously do that. It's basically a slasher film where the alien is the slasher.
It's funny you say that because to me, and I think to most people, both of those franchises are like the first 2 movies, and then everything's way downhill after that.
Well, John texted me about Alien earlier, and I said it's hard to capture the magic of the originals. It's hard
Right.
it's hard to ever live up to that standard
They brought
because people have
Shane
it built
Black
up in their
back,
head.
and he wrote and directed that last Predator movie, and it was still garbage.
I would rank Romulus like, I would say like Aliens is the best, of course. It doesn't touch Aliens. Then there's Alien. And then I would say like Romulus and Alien 3 are like this. Romulus may be a little better. And then after that, I would put like Alien Covenant, and then I would put Alien versus Predator, and then Prometheus way at the bottom with a piece of shit on it. Because I fucking hate that movie with the fiery passion of hell.
Really bad.
Yeah,
And I didn't mind it.
man, I think it's just because I had looked forward to that thing so long, and I was such an Alien fanboy, and the end of that movie.
Yeah,
Oh,
they definitely took it in a
God,
very weird, like somebody took a whole lot of liberties to try to create that movie, and it almost like they were trying to make it some kind of Planet of the Apes-esque thing. Like it was like, oh, it was us the whole time.
Man, Ridley Scott, it's weird. He created that franchise, but then he also almost kind of destroyed it.
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing. Like, it's like James Cameron understood that franchise more than anybody. In one movie, he figured out exactly what that whole thing was supposed to be. And then he just never came back, which.
Well, that's the one. I'm not a huge fan of James Cameron as a person.
Yeah.
The man knows how to craft a story. Even if it's kind of a cheesy story, like Avatar is a cheesy story, but he knows how to pull people in. He knows how to get people invested in the characters. And that's 90% of filmmaking. If you can get people invested in the characters, then you can get away with some errors in the story or the plot.
And just show it in a $200 million 3D version.
And
I never got to see Avatar in 3D. I didn't actually watch Avatar for the first time until like 2 years ago because it just looked like a dumb movie to me.
It is a dumb movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the sequel yet. I have no desire to watch any more Avatar movies.
No, Way of the Water, I felt like I don't even understand what the purpose of that was.
I didn't see it yet. Didn't even watch it.
Yeah.
Avatar, I think
don't
Avatar
buy
had a
into
good
the whole
principle.
mythology.
I think Avatar, the original one, it was a unique idea. I think it should have been darker. I think they tried to I think he was trying to make the characters kid friendly enough for action figures and toys and things like that.
Yeah.
The Disney treatment. I think if it
it's
had been a little more dark, I think it would have been a whole lot better, but it definitely wouldn't have made $2 billion.
True.
So it's funny.
He probably knows what he's doing.
He started working on that movie
He made one of the
long
greatest
ago.
action movies of all time in Terminator 2. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Right.
Oh no,
Right.
No,
One
I
of the
agree.
Best.
He started working on Avatar so long ago, and he doesn't admit this, but that movie is basically Dances with Wolves. The whole movie is Dances with Wolves, and he started writing Avatar like in the 90s. And he claims, no, I never was inspired. And I'm like, bullshit, man. John Dunbar.
It's the white guy that infiltrates the native culture.
People.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the same movie. And it was a brilliant way to do it, but he always denies that. And I'm like, dude, you know that you saw Dances of Wolves and you were like, I'm gonna write this shit down for later.
That's why I hate the band Greta Van Fleet, because when they first came out, people were comparing them to Led Zeppelin, which they obviously sound a lot like on their first album. And they were like, oh, we weren't really inspired by them. We didn't really even listen to Led Zeppelin. We listened to other stuff. We were very heavily inspired by rock music of the 60s and 70s, but you never heard Led Zeppelin. Fuck off. Everybody that listened to any rock music from the 60s stumbles upon Led Zeppelin, whether you love or hate them.
Yeah. Oh,
everybody has, in passing, even if you were just sitting in the lobby of a random hotel, you've heard Led Zeppelin at some point in time. And you can't tell me with the way that guy sings and the way that they dress and play guitar that they didn't at least have a little bit of influence.
See, I didn't know he denied that. I know that
they did early on, and then they backtracked later, and they're like, yeah, I mean, but then we enjoyed all the rock music from the 60s and 70s. It wasn't just Led Zeppelin. They tried to backtrack and then say, yeah,
well, they're probably just tired of
inspired by them. They
them.
weren't our sole inspiration.
When you hear them live, I will say they reminded me live of Aerosmith. And like what
really?
that's live. I love them, but live, I kind of got this vibe like that's what Aerosmith was like in the 70s. Not really Led Zeppelin. Like he had a very like Steven Tyler thing in the way that they did the solos. But,
Steven
yeah.
Tyler's look, if you watch The Song Remains, the kind of documentary live performance that Led Zeppelin does, that whole look, the tight jeans, the vest with the shirt with the chest exposed, that was Robert Plant all day, every day. And Steven Tyler mimics that. And I'm not saying mimic, that was kind of the look for the time, but Steven
Yeah.
Tyler definitely carried that same tradition of, you know, wearing tight fitting clothes on the bottom and then loose stuff on the top, even to the point where he has all the what do you call them, scarves hanging from his microphone.
Yeah.
But the guy from Greta Van Fleet dresses almost identical to those guys. Like I'm not trying to say anything about, like, they're talented musicians, but just acknowledge that yeah, we love these guys, and that's kind of what we based our sound and feel on, is the music that we love.